Am I the asshole for punishing my son after he said something racist? About a week ago, my 39 female family ordered Chinese food for delivery. When the delivery driver came to the door, my daughter 16 female was taking the cat upstairs to put in her room because he always tries to eat the food. My son 13 male loudly says, "Make sure to hide the cat from the Chinese guy," as I am at the door getting the food from the Chinese delivery driver. He very obviously heard what my son said and was upset by it. I quickly apologized and took the food. I told my son that racist jokes were completely unacceptable and very wrong, and he refused to admit that he was in the wrong. So later that night, I forced my son to write a sincere apology to the delivery driver. His name was on the receipt, as well as write a one-page paper on Chinese culture, and a one-page paper on why racism is perpetuated by racist jokes and stereotypes. Then the next day I took him to the restaurant and had him read his apology aloud to the delivery driver as well as give him the papers he wrote. The driver was very appreciative of the apology and thanked me for making my son do it. He then told my son about multiple instances where he had faced racist comments and attacks from people while he was a delivery driver. That night my husband, 43 male, and I got into an argument about me making our son do this. He told me that it was embarrassing for our son to have to do the apology and that the punishment didn't fit the crime. I told him that it was much more embarrassing for the driver to have to face that kind of racism and racist stereotypes, and that our son would get over the embarrassment. I do not condone any kind of hateful thinking in my house, and the fact that my son said that embarrassed me as well. My husband told me that it was just a joke and it wasn't that big of a deal. I feel like I might have overreacted some, but I think it's important to help my son understand how what he said was wrong and hurtful. Response 1. Not the asshole. Your son may have been embarrassed, but he should be embarrassed for having said a racist joke. That kind of joke is meant to embarrass and humiliate the target, the delivery guy. You did right by your son by turning that around and showing him that his attitudes and jokes are the real embarrassment. Soon he will be too old to teach not to be racist. You are a great parent, and I hope your son takes this lesson to heart. Response 2. Not the asshole. You held him accountable for his actions. What he said was not funny, it was wildly inappropriate and also hurtful. The reason his behavior is so wrong is because that stereotype that Asians eat cats and dogs comes from this nasty belief that all Asians are barbaric people. This prejudice dates really far back and became even more prevalent during and following WWI. The fact that this prejudice still exists despite the American obsession with Japanese anime, K-pop, says a lot. It really does. This is why education is so important, and that is exactly what you gave your son. Edit. Just because some poverty-stricken cities in China consume cats and dogs doesn't make the stereotype okay. The origins of that stereotype are from the U.S., not what happens in China. People were convinced that Chinese who operated takeout restaurants would steal their pets and eat them. This stereotype has been applied to all Asians, not just Chinese. And I promise you, most Asians would like you to stop thinking they all steal pets, because they certainly do not. Response 3. Not the asshole. Your son did something wrong and you corrected him. That's all there is to it. Your husband, however, seems like he condones that kind of humor, and chances are your son picked it up from him. Not sure if that's the case, but it is 100% a learned behavior.